Hello, beautiful people. My name is Dr. Dain Heer, and I am so glad you have found yourself here. Welcome to the pride of being you. And I have no idea what that thing is behind me, but kind of the best background I could find. And the conversation I'd love to have with you today is about actually having pride in being whatever you are. See, we live in a world that judges everything that is different about us, judges it as wrong, something that should be separated from. And then a lot of times, so we've got a couple of choices from that. And that's basically the world we grew up in. And those two choices are, we can cave in and feel like a pile of shit and pretend that we're less while knowing that we're not, which always sticks us because whenever there's a lie involved, we get stuck. Or the other choice seems to be we can fight against people who are trying to make us wrong and be like, I'm not wrong, you are. And that doesn't feel like us either. So where are we? Like, when do we get the freedom to actually be us and actually have a pride in being us and being as different as we are? And this is the conversation I want to have with you today is, what about having pride in your difference? Not from fight, not from trying to prove you're right, not from trying to prove you're not wrong, but just from being you. I wrote a book back in 2011 called Being You, Changing the World, and it was based on my experience, but also the experience of thousands of people who've walked a journey of stepping into what it is to truly be them. Like getting a sense that they, as they are, have value. And here we are living in this world, and there's a lot of talk about gender identity and sexuality and all this sort of stuff. And I applaud it. Thank you. And thank you for those of you out on the front lines with the courage to stand for your convictions. And what I'd like to invite you to is the awareness that you don't have to fight to get where you're going. You don't have to try to prove you're right, because if you look at it, the people that are trying to prove they're right, it's because they don't think they're right, so they're trying to prove, because we always try to prove the opposite of what we believe we are or what we've decided we are. And here's the other interesting part is we think oftentimes it's because of our sexual orientation, our gender identity, whatever the politically correct, appropriate word is to put to it. And I apologize, I'm not very good with politically correct or appropriate words. But what if the difference, and what if the thing that we're actually up against is that we live in a world that doesn't celebrate our difference? We live in a world that tries to homogenize us, that tries to mix us all together and say that you are only okay if you are this and this and this, and if you don't disrupt the standards and if you are part of the whole. Well, you know what? The whole is made up by all of us. And I mean WHOLE, just so we're clear. So if you look at over your life, how many judgments have you had of you for being you? And here's the interesting part is, you may think it's because of your gender identity. You may think it's because of your chosen sexuality. But in actuality, this world tries to kill any of us that are different. See, I grew up as a little boy in a household with all women, and my mom is gay, and her girlfriend was mean and abusive and tried to destroy my mom because she was a kind person, and tried to destroy me because I was a kind person and because I was a man. Now, that sort of flips a lot of the stereotypes on its head, right? And yet I realized that what was really going on was we were just so different. And I have literally spoken with and facilitated hundreds of thousands of people over the last 23 years. And the primary thing we get judged for, the primary thing we get made wrong for, the primary thing we get abused for is for being different. One of the things I learned also is that anytime you're made wrong for something, it's usually because you're strong. And it's usually because you're strong, and weak people are threatened by that strength. So what do? They try to abuse you to try to get you to stop being different. You make me uncomfortable, is basically what they're saying. But here's the thing about that. So we think it's about our sexuality, we think it's about our gender identity, we think it's about whatever we think it's about. But in actuality, what if it's about the strength of our difference that weak people do not desire us to have? What if they know that if all of us weirdos actually get together and aren't wrong anymore, we're changing the fucking world? And I don't know about you, but I would like to live in a world with a lot more kindness, a lot more inclusion, a lot more sense of possibilities, a lot more of where all of us can let our freak flag fly no matter what that freak flag is. And I want to thank all of you in the LGBTQ community who are out there on the front lines and living. And I hope you're fucking thriving, because you absolutely deserve it. And you may not realize it, but you carry a banner for all of the weirdos in the world. Once again, our weirdness is not based on our sexuality. Our weirdness is based on our difference. You know, like some people talk to animals, some people talk to plants. Well, guess what? They're made wrong too. So, what I'd like to present to you is the possibility of thriving with that difference. How do you do that? Well, number one, we need to get over giving a fuck about anybody's judgments and anybody else's points of view about us. They don't know what's true for us. They can only, at the very most, see an outside perspective of what is. And when people live in judgment, here's the other thing is, sorry, I have ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autism all rolled into one. So there's always at least 1,000 things in my head that want to be said all at the same time. But one of the other elements of this is people will do judgment of you because they're trying to separate from that part of themselves. And you look at that and you're like, oh, like, have you ever met somebody who used to be a smoker that doesn't smoke anymore? And if you smoke around them, they just get crazy. Why? Because they're trying to separate from that part of themselves, trying to eliminate it from their world so they're not tempted by it. So how many of the people that are judging you are trying to separate from some part of them that they see in you? And what if we could just acknowledge it? What if we didn't have to give a fuck about anybody's judgments? There's a really simple tool I'd like to give you. It's this: interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. You can try it right now if you want. Take any upset you've had that's still in your world that has been there, let's say for at least a week, and you can't seem to get rid of it, just kind of weighs you down, because we all have a lot of those things in our lives. The thing is, what I found is they're actually really easy to change once you have the right tools. So we're going to try this one, and if not, we have several others. But so get that energy, that sort of upset, whatever it is, and you know the situation, but just get the energy, get present with it, and just go, interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Little shift maybe. And now again to whatever's there, whatever's left. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Now it shifts, and now to whatever's left. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. How is it? Has it changed at all? For most people, after about 2 or 3 times, and you can do it up to 10 times, well, you can do it as many times as you want. Keep doing it as long as it's changing until you get to total lightness. But for most people, after doing it a few times, they're like, wow, it's actually starting to change, if you're willing to do it. And what you're doing in that is you're making it an interesting point of view, not a point of view that you've got to make real and fight against, but a point of view that's just somebody's point of view. And let's face it, we live in a world where lots of people have lots of points of view. Let's also face it, we have lots of points of view. But what if we're not wrong? And what if we don't have to defend to try to prove that we're not wrong? What if we just know we're not? Now, in the world we live in, that is now seen as, now I am right and they are wrong. No, that's the same thing. That's the other side of the same coin. What I'm talking about is a world in which you are not wrong, so you don't have to try to prove that you're right, but you also don't have to make anybody else wrong. Now, this is just the very beginning of so many of the conversations I would love to have with you. I'm actually coming to Mexico in December to do a Being You, Changing the World 3-day intensive. Consider yourself warmly invited. And we are going to explore not only what we've just talked about, but a lot more. And I just want you to know you're invited. So now, past that, so you know what's happening. It's in December. I'll be there. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to meet you in person. And see and explore what we together can create, because this is our world. Those of us especially that feel totally disenfranchised, and I have my own reasons, okay? And this is our world. This world is made up by the sum total of all of us that are creating it together. What if you recognize that your choice is a unique gift? And what if you recognize that your choice and how you view things is a unique contribution to all of us? And what if you could start to value that? What if you could start to have a sense of the gift that you, being you, truly is, as weird and wonderful as you are? Okay, a couple other quick things before I end this video that's already longer than I wanted it to be. Number one, what's true for you will always make you lighter. A lie for you will always make you heavier. So when somebody says something and it makes you lighter, it's because it's actually true for you. Lighter is kind of like you go, oh yeah, that. Heavier is where you kind of cringe or want to avoid or run away, or you feel, that lead in your guts that you get sometimes. Whenever you hear that, it's not true for you. Whether it's somebody's judgment of you or somebody else or somebody's point of view about the world, if it's not light, it's not true for you. May still be true for them, who knows, but you know what? Their life is up to them, not you. Not your fault, not your problem, not your monkeys, not your circus. So, what's true for you makes you lighter. A lie for you will always make you heavier. Okay, that's one. And then the other one is a question I'd like to give you is, what if everything you thought was a wrongness of you is actually a strongness? What if everything you've been made wrong for is because you had a strength that other people were intimidated by? And I know if you've experienced a lot of abuse, and I'm talking physical, emotional, sexual, almost every form of abuse imaginable, like I have, and I know like a lot of you have in a lot of ways, I just want you to know you're not alone, okay? And this idea of what if everything you thought was a wrongness is actually a strongness is one of the greatest gifts I can give you. And if you start searching from that place, what's the strongness underneath this? Like if you've experienced being abused, and when I say being abused, I'm not talking necessarily the thing that a lot of people think of, somebody put their hands on me. I'm talking about having people that were your friends go away from you. I'm talking about having people tell you you're wrong for your points of view. These are all forms of abuse that we experience. But we don't have to live in the victim mode. What we need to do, because us being in the victim mode isn't serving anyone, especially us. But we do have a choice to go, okay, if somebody's making me wrong, what is the strongness I have that might scare them or intimidate them? And what if you realize that you've been going around scaring people? I don't know, it makes me laugh personally, but what if you recognize that you've been going around scaring people your whole life? Now, I apologize for the movement. I am holding a selfie stick while making this video, okay? Since I'm holding a selfie stick, let me show you the shirt. Baby, woo! Proud as a peacock, mama. That's what I'm talking about. So, what if you recognize that everything anybody else has told you is wrong is actually an indication of where you're strong? That's also what I'd like to explore with you. Because you getting that is a gift. You getting your strength is a gift. You recognizing that your difference is a gift you give the world, and our world is a gift. So what about unearthing the gift of you? What about unearthing the strongness that you thought was a wrongness? And what about recognizing that we can end the fight and change the world from a totally different space together? And I know when I say end the fight, A lot of people might want to fight me on that one, and I totally get it because I had a similar point of view. I thought, if we're going to change things, we need to fight against what doesn't work. And I salute you guys and girls and all of y'all who have been doing this, because I know where your heart is at. I get it. But what I've realized is there's a different way that works and is easier for us, but not only easier, way more fun. You can actually have fun and go on the journey of creating a different possibility. In fact, the more fun you have, the greater the changes that occurs. Whew, may not make logical sense right now, but this is a journey I've been on for a long time, and I just want to present that possibility to you. So, if you no longer had to fight, what else would be possible? If you no longer had to prove you were right, what else is possible? If you no longer had to think you were wrong and instead recognize that any time you were made wrong, it's because you were strong and it intimidated or scared somebody else because it didn't match the box of their reality, what else would be possible? And what if you recognize that when people try to bring you down, it's because they're trying to hold so tightly onto their box and you're already beyond it? Now's the time and the space for something different, my beautiful friends. I am so grateful to have this conversation with you, to have you receive it, and to invite you to explore what is true for you. And if I get the pleasure of meeting you in person someday and you're a hugger, please come up and give me a hug, because it is one of the greatest gifts I get, having you weirdos. Oh, by the way, the original meaning of weird was of spirit, fate, or destiny. So one of the greatest gifts I get is having us weirdos get together. And please give me a hug. Let me know you saw this video, because I'm making this for you. I'm making this for us. And it would be great to know that it was actually received. On that note, I very much look forward to meeting you in person someday and giving you one of those big hugs. And what if you, truly being you, with no judgment of you, nothing to prove, and no wrongness to live from ever again, are the gift, the change, and the possibility this world requires. Sorry for the very long video. See you soon, beautiful you. Bye-bye.